Hi, this is Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre, and we're here at the Friars Club. Our guest today has worked with Gene Hackman, John Malkovich, Matt Damon, George Clooney, Edward Norton, Martin Landau, Dennis Hopper, and Brad Pitt. And yet, the biggest thrill of his life was to work with me, Gilbert Gottfried. Welcome, writer-director Brian Koppelman. Now, your father, Charles Koppelman, was one of the biggest music moguls of all time. What the fuck do you do?
That's a great...
Yes.
Thank you. What a welcome. What a welcome. We can talk about all that, but I have to tell you first, you've ruined Harry Chapin for me forever. Gilbert.
Why? Because I had sex with him first?
Yeah,
yes.
Because you... and it got cut out of when you were on my podcast because there was some kind of a recording glitch, I think, from The Great Beyond. Chapin did it, but you told me you had this, murder fantasy. Whenever
you hear Taxi?
Whenever you hear Taxi or Cats in the Cradle. And the other night if you think this is a low rung of show business, the other night I was asked to induct somebody into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And so I went out there, and in this very moving moment for everybody else, one of Harry Chapin's daughters got up and sang Cats in the Cradle, and all I could think about was you strangling.
Yes. Now he's already gone.
Yes.
Now all those people who wrote songs like that, like him and who was the other
Jim
one?
Croce.
Jim Croce.
Yeah.
They all crashed in cars.
John Denver's dead.
Yeah. Yes. Well, he crashed in a plane.
Well,
yeah.
Croce's was a plane too.
Also.
Yeah.
Oh, Croce was a plane
Correct.
also.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, so can I spread the rumor that I was supposed to get on that plane with Croce, and at the last minute I was buying some chiclets, and I missed it. Yeah, yes. I want to spread that as a popular rumor. Now, you would help your father find musical acts.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I did.
Now, who were some of the people you discovered?
Well, I discovered Tracy Chapman is probably the most famous person that I was the first person to hear. And others, Eddie Murphy, his first record deal. But this all was a long time ago.
Yes. And my girl wants to party all the time, party all the time, party all the time.
Yeah, but the true killer track on that record is Boogie in the Butt.
Boogie in the Butt?
I remember
How did you
it.
miss that?
I remember it.
Padre, you may remember it,
Yeah,
but how
I
did you
do.
not feed that to him first?
Could you sing Boogie in the Butt for us?
The key line was, put the boogie in your butt.
Put the boogie in your butt.
Put the boogie in your butt.
See, that's a little too subtle. See, I like songs that you have to think about, that you got to hear it a few times.
My favorite line in the song was, do you remember the item that women used to wear, culottes?
Oh, sure.
Oh, my God, yes, that was an ugly fashion.
Well, in the song, they felt you should put a culotte in your butt.
Put a culotte in your butt?
That was one of the tags at the end, in the vamp,
mean
during the
like
vamp.
Actually wrapping up
I remember
a
the
culotte
vamp.
and shoving it in your butt? Or
How would you do it?
I don't know. I usually do it with jeans.
Did we establish that your dad was Charles Koppelman, the legendary music producer and executive?
Yeah, Gilbert opened
Yes,
with that.
yes.
Yeah. Not sure he actually said his name.
Yes.
He did. It was like the
Yeah.
first two words.
All right.
I recognize them.
Yeah. So you worked for your dad for a time.
Say down.
So you worked for your dad in
Well,
the
no, I was
music-
I was not working for my dad. I did that when I was in college.
But you were at Tufts University, and then...
Yeah, I was at Tufts University, and then found Tracy Chapman, and while organizing an anti-apartheid boycott against a pro-divestment rally. There was this movement in the 80s where these universities would invest their endowments in, just throw a dick joke in, by the way.
Yeah,
As I'm talking about this.
No, I was just
You
thinking.
can. Let's throw a dick joke in.
You're one of those Jew liberals,
Yeah.
then, basically.
I'm saying, I was ready for.
yes.
I mean, honestly.
Okay.
let's talk about something else. Here, I have an idea.
Okay, let's have it.
It's your show.
Do you have
But
any dick jokes for us?
Here, I'll tell you something you're going to enjoy, Gilbert. This is for you. I was walking over here and I was thinking, I don't really have many stories that took place 30 years ago. Santopadre's going back to when I'm 18
Yes.
in college. But the other day something happened to me that I thought was worthy of talking about on here. And it is that, like you, I'm a skeptic. Penn is both of our good friends, and I'm an atheist and a skeptic.
The reason you're a skeptic is because you're a Sagittarius.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
of
that's
course.
the real reason.
Yes, there's all. So, but I'd heard, I have a hurt back, and I heard that there was all these self-help guys on various podcasts started talking about this therapy called cryogenic chambers.
Oh, wow.
You know what that is?
Sure. Yes, that's where allegedly Walt Disney is.
That's where, but that's sort of like taking it to. But what they do now is they've come up with this thing where, this is what the pitch is. You go in for 3 minutes and they release in this little chamber an amount of nitrous oxide that's at 250 degrees, minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And you freeze, and it reduces all bodily inflammation and cures you of whatever it is that might be alien. And I heard about it, and I thought, all right, that just sounds so outrageous. And what if it worked? Because we're all fucking suckers sometimes. And I was like, I got to go check this out. So the guy I make movies with and I, Dave, we go, I look, and I'm in Manhattan. There has to be, if there's cryogenic chambers in the world, there has to be one. Nearby.
Oh, yeah.
So there's one 10 blocks. There's one 2 blocks from where we are right now.
Yes.
Is there a free one Gilbert could check out?
It's $90, but they'll let you do it for $70, $45 the first time.
Yes.
Got a coupon.
But so on the way there, we're talking to each other, going like, we have to be the biggest suckers on earth. Like, we're really going to go into this thing, and it's 200 degrees, And we start making jokes about that Mamet movie, The Spanish Prisoner, where Steve Martin is this con man. And then we walk up, and you go into a building, a tiny elevator, little thing. Because, the therapy that cures everybody is always in some obscure building down at the end of a hall.
In every movie, it's in some abandoned warehouse where you go in an alleyway, and it's state of the art.
Let me say one thing ahead of time. The name I'm going to say at the end of this story is so good and so perfect for the two of you that you're going to think I made it up, or that you won't be able to come up with a better name. I'll ask you who this person should be at the end of the story. Penn knows this; it's 100% true. So we walk into the cryogenic place, and it is right out of Spanish Prisoner. There is a well-dressed, waspy couple, 60 years old, putting their scarves on, having just finished, saying to the guy, I feel revivified. This is marvelous. And then the guy actually says, like in one of those movies, let me know about franchising opportunities. I want to open these all over the country.
That's great.
Like, as though they obviously have that guy rolling in whenever somebody comes to do their therapy. So I say, I want to try this. What do I do? I'll sign these releases. It's going to be great. And they tell me, you have to go in the back. You have to disrobe. Then you put on woolen mittens and clogs. And then you go into the thing nude, but with mittens and clogs because of your extremities and the thing. But you get a little thin robe on first.
Now, do you wear anything over your balls?
Yes, you do. You wear you can wear a cotton. You can wear cotton underwear. Can't have anything on it. You can have one thing, right?
Not even a codpiece.
No codpiece.
Wow.
I'd be more worried about that than my feet.
So going through the thing, the whole time I'm thinking, is it real? Is it bullshit? All these people do it, and how will I know if is it going to be a placebo effect? And so they start talking to you about afterwards what you're going to have to do. You walk by exercise equipment that you're supposed to afterwards to re-warm yourself up, and you can only stay in there for exactly 3 minutes, and all the pseudoscience bullshit. And I go in, and there's an outer chamber, and then in it you see all the smoke and everything from the cryogenics. And it just happened last week. I go in, and I have the little thin robe on, and of course there's this ice maiden from Poland who runs it, and she's like, "Do you want to disrobe now, or do you disrobe?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'll disrobe. I don't give a shit." So I take off the robe, and I'm standing there in my mittens and my clogs, and they just open the little secret chamber that you go in where they then turn it to 250, and it's horribly scary and the freezing. And just as I'm about to go in, a guy bursts in and says, "The VIP is here." Now, this whole treatment's 3 minutes.
That cures you of everything.
Everything. 3 minutes.
Wow. Cancer, anything.
VIP is here. Can't wait. Do you mind stepping out?
Wow.
So
It's like getting bumped.
So you're there naked,
I'm naked, gloves and clogs.
and clogs.
And about to step in to 250
You're
degrees
standing
minus.
there with your dick in
Yeah,
the
and
wind.
It's you can feel how freezing it is. And I go like, wait, you said it's 3 minutes. The VIP can't wait 3 minutes. And they say, this is a real VIP. Can't wait 3 minutes. So I'm like, what the fuck? All right, okay. Fine, put the robe back. So I put the robe back over the thing, and I, clonk out in the clogs, and they open the outer door so the VIP can come walking in the robe and the clogs and the mittens. And I will tell you that when I tell you who the VIP was, you will understand that I then knew the whole thing was not only bullshit, but it was one of the great moments of my life. Who should it be? Who should it be? Who should the VIP be?
Oh, wow.
That's a tough one.
It could be Tom Cruise.
Is it a new agey kind of
So
person?
much better than Tom Cruise.
Oh, better than Tom Cruise. Not John Travolta. Not a Scientologist.
By the way, so much, the name for where we are, and it's so much better than
Joe
John
Franklin.
Travolta.
Milton Berle?
Those would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, not possible. And can you imagine? I'd pay money for that.
Shecky Green?
You ready?
Yeah.
Because neither of you are going to believe
Well,
me
we're in
when
the
I say
Friars
it.
Club, so.
Yeah.
Yoko Ono.
Wow.
Oh, no. Oh, that's perfect. That should have been the first name I thought of.
It's the best name.
Wow. That should have been the exact first name.
As
Wow.
Penn said, the number one rule of storytelling is you can never say, I'm going to tell you a name at the end, and it's going to be as good as... But honestly, you can save that name to the end of the story.
that
Yeah, it's a
one-
big payoff.
That one, and it's one of those like, oh, God, why didn't I think of that one first?
I was trying to think of in the whole history of show business who would have been better. Oh, I think or only Warhol.
Oh, yeah.
The only name I could think of that would have been better.
Was she naked with mittens?
Naked. She had the little robe. She, of course, had the handler with her. Everyone else, they're like, no one can go in. It's locked. But, of course, she can have the handler
Oh,
go
yes.
in. It's all bullshit.
Right.
And then I will tell you, and this is the other part. So I step out. And then Dave, the guy I made movies with, and I, we stare at each other, and we fall out laughing that I got bumped. I got bumped for Yoko. And then, so she goes in there to get cryogenically frozen, which explains a lot, by the way.
Oh, yes.
And she comes out, and the guy immediately put the sunglasses back on her.
Wow.
Because, she has them. You've seen her walking around New York. I'm sure.
Oh,
always
yes.
a giant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right back on.
She's
X-ray
one of
specs.
those people, like Woody Allen, who has those recognizable disguises.
Yes.
And so did you explain to Yoko that now that John is dead, she's pretty meaningless and is not a VIP?
I just wanted to. I tell you, every horrible. You wonder if you're a bad person or a good person. And then staring at Yoko Ono, you just know what you are.
Oh, exactly.
Because.
So one of our guests, David Steinberg,
Who I love, yeah.
You have a story, something that happened when you were 14.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Sorry to go back again.
We can go back. Yeah. Well, Gilbert, I think I told you this, but David Steinberg, who's a great pal of my father's and sort of a godfather to me, really just one of my favorite people in the world. Cue David Steinberg impression.
Oh, yes. In college,
David, how do you feel about this mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, David?
well, the mayor of Toronto, he takes drugs. He's a big drug taker, and he's a drug addict.
It's a little like Alan Thicke. You
Yes.
got the whole Canadian.
Yes. They all have that same.
But the Steinberg was first. The Steinberg impression was
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
He's established that long ago.
He took you to see.
Well, yeah, so Steinberg said to me, he knew I loved comedy and I was really interested in this stuff, and he said, I'm going to take you to the city to see this guy. I'd never been to a comedy club before, and he will either kill or die a horrible death. But either
Sounds
way,
familiar.
Brian, he's a genius. And so he took me to the city. The two of us went to the old Carolines. And, Gilbert came out. And I do remember every moment. It was one of the, signal moments as somebody wanted to do something creative for their lives. I mean, watching Gilbert do the thing that he did on stage that night where, you did a really out set, but they were with you. You did the character with the buttoning up the shirt. And
The Ben Gazzara bit?
well, he didn't do the Ben Gazzara bit that night.
Disappointing.
No, he did this thing about Ethiopia that night. It was just a one-line thing.
I think that was, John Kennedy died in my arms, and Bobby Kennedy died in my arms, and Martin Luther King died in my arms, and I just got back from Biafra, and boy, are my arms tired.
I have never heard you do that
Yes.
bit. That's great. Little Tony Orlando in there about the dying in the arms part.
Oh,
But
yes.
then,
Yeah.
as a 14-year-old, it did blow my mind. So in the middle of this thing where he was doing like a fully out, late period Miles kind of a set, he would turn his glasses in a certain way and then become that character who would say, that's not funny. Yeah.
Oh, this isn't comedy.
And, that's what obviously, like, all I knew of comedy was Gabe Kaplan. So that was basically Gabe Kaplan's act.
Gary, you could cross Gabe Kaplan off our invite.
Yes.
I loved Gabe Kaplan. I begged my dad to take me to see Gabe Kaplan when I was like 12 at the Westbury Music Fair for my birthday, and he walked out, and at 12, it was all those jokes, all set up punchline,
Sure.
regular observational jokes, except then he wanted to prove, like all these guys when they get on TV on a regular show, they want to prove they can work blue.
Oh, yes.
So then he started doing all these fucking masturbation jokes, which is a
Interesting.
12-year-old. Yeah, he did all these jokes about. I remember one where he compared having a wet dream, but he would call it nocturnal emission, the proper. And,
Oh, yes.
And he would do a whole routine like it was the Apollo launch.
Oh.
And he would go, prepare for nocturnal emission, and this whole control tower thing. And I just remember sitting there thinking, Gabe Kaplan's not funny.
Yeah. I remember.
It was a horrible realization.
I think George Carlin said it's easier to go from being a dirty comic to a clean comic than from being a clean one to a dirty one.
Sure. And let's all have a moment of silence for Marsha
Yes.
Strassman,
Yes.
who,
Oh,
yes.
his co-star,
Yes, Mrs. Cotter
who went
passed
on
away.
to her reward
Yes.
yesterday.
We're having a good laugh over the death of an actress.
I loved her.
Now-
I thought she was as a young boy, she was the greatest.
Now, so we met there at that.
We did. We met then, and then you and I met also. Everybody says they were at the Hilton that night of the Friars Roast, but I was there, as I told, with Frank DiGiacomo, who ended up writing that piece.
Oh, the Hefner roast.
At the Hefner Roast.
Yeah.
I was at the Hefner Roast with Frank DiGiacomo. So I saw that whole thing, and I met you that night. But you were nice, and I went up to you and I said, Gilbert, we have some friends in common. I'm good friends with Alan Havey. And you said, why?
So Alan Havey turns up in Rounders?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
of
There's
course.
a
And
few
knock-around guys.
comedians at that table.
Lenny Clark.
Yes.
Lenny Clark's at the
Yeah.
table, absolutely,
Yep.
in Rounders.
Yep, saw him.
And, Havey's been my friend since I was
And was-
19.
Sweet guy.
Was Josh Mostel
Yeah.
there too?
He's in Knockaround
I've
Guys,
had Josh
too.
Mostel in a
Yeah.
couple of movies. I love Josh. He's a hilarious guy. And you guys should have you had Josh on the show?
No, we should.
We should.
He's perfect to have on the show.
Now, when we met, did David Steinberg go, Brian, I want you to meet Gilbert. I think you and Gilbert will get along swimmingly.
I think he might have said, "Don't talk to Gilbert." I know. I think that he might have said, "Just watch him from afar. Watch Gilbert."
So let's talk a little bit. Your dad's in the music business.
Yes.
You're
Oh, wait, I just remembered something. Because you mentioned Gabe Kaplan.
Uh-oh.
I did.
And your father, didn't he produce albums for Love and Spoonful?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
What's the
so
connection here?
His biggest hit.
Oh, God.
Later,
John
that's
Sebastian.
exactly right.
Yes.
Very good.
Welcome back,
John
Cotter.
Sebastian later.
Very
I mean, they
good.
weren't working together by then. But yes, later John Sebastian did. He did do the song for
I
that
have
movie.
a feeling that's probably his biggest moneymaker.
Oh, I'm sure. Well,
No, Do You Believe in Magic?
Do you believe in magic?
Oh,
is a big
yes,
song.
yes.
It would have to be Do You Believe in Magic? And then Summer in the City, and then probably
Oh,
Welcome
yeah.
Back third would be, as a publisher's son.
But
I
I'm
think
just
that's how I
thinking,
would-
does he get paid every time Welcome Back, Kotter?
I think he does. John Sebastian?
Yeah. Because that's one of those shows that's always going to pop up somewhere.
Well, that's quality entertainment.
Yeah.
Gilbert, so-
Can you name all the kids on Welcome Back?
Sure, I
Kotter?
can.
Yes.
Epstein,
Okay.
Freddie Boom Boom Washington, Juan Epstein, Arnold Horshack, and Vinny Boom Boom Barbarino.
Do you know?
No, not Boom Boom Barbarino. It's
Just
Freddie
Vinny
Boom Boom Washington. No,
Yeah.
but Vinny Barbarino.
Vinny Barbarino. He didn't have a nickname.
Do you
Well,
know
but then he would do that song "Bar Bar 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 Barbarino"
That's true.
as a riff on
on
Barbara
the
Ann.
Beach Boys.
that Robert Hedges and what's his name? Sammy Petrillo.
Oh, so yeah, I know who you mean. Ron Palillo.
Ron Palillo.
The late Ron Palillo.
And Robert Hedges died in the same year. So when they were doing the thing on the
yeah.
Grammys, rather than show two separate clips, they had
put
a
them
clip
together?
of them together.
Wow.
And it saved time.
Saves 2 seconds.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
important.
You had like a clip of them together.
When Palillo died, something very sad happened for us in our office, which is whenever we're asked to make cast, when you're making movies, you're always making these cast lists, and I'm sure you guys have this. There are just certain things you say to each other by rote. So whenever we have to make a cast list for like the butch lead of a movie, one of us always, no matter what, says, "Well, obviously Palillo." But now that he died, somehow that seems disrespectful.
oh, yeah.
Before
Everything we've said to this
before
point
it seemed
is
fair.
not.
But remember,
Now-
Ron Palillo, like so many of those people, like Urkel and all of those, and like Dustin Diamond, they all try to act really tough at one point to show their He-Man.
Did Palillo
and
go through a
Ron
tough-
Palillo was in that boxing show.
I don't remember.
I think he...
Celebrity boxing?
Yeah, celebrity boxing. And it was
he
Ron...
got hit though. He lost.
Yes,
That's right.
Yes,
That's
and
right.
Who,
Oh,
he,
you're right.
He fought another nerd.
Did he fight Todd Bridges?
No, he fought like I think it was another nerd.
Well, we'll
like
have
famous
our
nerd.
crack research team is working on it. I remember Danny Bonaducci fought Donny Osmond,
Oh yes,
which we'll ask Danny
which
about.
was that celebrity boxing show was so it was like a nightmare.
Poor Ron Palillo.
Yeah, but he fought. Oh, who did he box? This is horrible.
We're working on it.
Do you think during those 3 years that Palillo always somewhere inside of him knew this is all it's going to be?
Oh my God.
What do you think?
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion that he really thought he'd be like this respected Shakespearean actor because he went to acting school and everything. And I have so.
Is this a bad time to point out that I worked with both Ron Palillo and Robert Hedges on the TV Land Awards?
He used to be a dry cleaner.
But wait, who
Frank.
played Boom Boom?
No.
Oh wait, Boom Boom was which one? The
Lawrence
black
Hilton
guy?
Jacobs.
Yes.
Yes,
Nice man.
I knew there
Who
were three.
later on would play the father of Michael Jackson?
In the Jackson TV movie.
Yes.
Very good. You are working overtime.
And he was also one of the muggers in Death Wish.
That's correct.
Death Wish had a lot of famous muggers.
Didn't Stallone turn up in or was that Bananas?
Bananas.
In
Stallone's on the
Bananas.
subway in
That's right.
He's
Bananas.
also a suspected mugger in Prisoner of Second Avenue
That's
with
right.
Jack Lemmon.
That's right.
But the other muggers in Death Wish are mugger and rapist Jeff Goldblum. And in another part, he's just there for a second, Denzel Washington.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, he's a mugger.
Boom Boom
Death-
Washington and Denzel Washington. It's kismet.
They were originally going to call the film Washington and Washington.
No idea.
The internet has been arguing about this for like years and years. Was that you or was that not you in the alley getting shot by Charles Bronson in Death Wish?
No, I wasn't even an actor yet.
Have you seen the scene?
No,
You've never seen it?
no. I remember in my IMDb thing they used to have it on there.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't. I think the movie was in '74.
Yeah.
I didn't start acting till '75. Unless I happened to walk by and just fell out and they shot it and I didn't know. Maybe I thought it. Well, I was kind of in them circumstances in them days, so it might have been me. No. I don't know where that comes from, but no, it was one. So set the record straight.
We're setting it straight.
I didn't start acting till 1975 in theater. My first professional job on camera was in 1977.
David Steinberg once directed me
And what did he direct you
in Mad About You.
Oh yeah, I heard him. You guys talk about it on his show.
Yes, and he told me I had to run out of the room at one point, and he said, "Could you run a little faster?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess I can run fast." And he goes, "No, I don't mean faster. Can you run a little more graceful?" And I said, "I suppose." And then he goes, "No, I don't want it more graceful." And then finally he sighs and throws his hands in the air and goes, "Can you run less Jewish?"
Frankie, sit. Sit, for God's sakes. I look like an idiot. Just sit.
Now, did we find out?
I believe our crack research team, Dustin Diamond.
Dustin Diamond.
Wow.
Perfect.
Versus Ron
I told you
Palillo.
it was another nerd.
So Palillo lost.
And I remember Ron Palillo, and this shows you this is a horror story. He had an eye the size of an orange, and it was like bleeding at the end of this. And I thought, the fun to this, I enjoy these horror things as much as anyone, and this is just wrong.
I didn't think doing this podcast would make me this sad.
That's what we're all about.
I'm just deeply. I think this is.
Most people have killed themselves.
I never knew what a
after
clinical
doing
depression really was until this must be what it feels like. They have to walk around all the time feeling like this.
I'm determined to ask you about your screenwriting career and your movie
Ask me
career.
anything you want to
Yes.
ask.
So how did you're working in the music business? Were you scouting talent? We talked about on the phone. We talked about my father's place, a legendary music hangout in Long Island, where we're both from.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I always figured that's what I'd do, would be somebody who would go, because I did grow up. My dad
Sure.
was in the record business, as you guys said, and I grew up going to recording studios. I spent a lot of time going with him and watching these bands, watching Barbra Streisand record her albums, or Dolly Parton, or all these pop acts. That's really what my father did, these pop music acts mostly. And I had a real affinity for it, and I was able to recognize when a song would be successful, even from a young age. I kind of, if you pay attention and you're around it, you pick a bunch of stuff up. So I figured that's what I do. And then in college, when I found Tracy and then helped make that first album that was so successful, it just felt like that's the path that I was on. And I worked at various different record companies, but something in it left me cold for a variety of reasons. And it was really after the birth of my son. This may be a little too hopeful and sentimental for Gilbert to handle.
I'm sure it will be.
Look at you, Frank.
I promise I'll throw in a dick joke.
Oh, great.
after
Yeah,
this.
tell me when.
Yes.
Throw the
Just
dick
look
joke
in my
in.
direction.
Okay.
And but I realized I wanted to tell my son to go chase whatever he wanted to chase as he grew up, whatever dreams he had, and that I wasn't, and I was kind of miserable doing what I was doing because what I really wanted to do was this thing of find a way to make movies. So my best friend and I was at that time a degenerate poker player, living in these poker clubs. I would go to work, I would stop home, see my wife and my son when Sammy would go to bed, because I had to go watch bands all night long. That was my job. In between, I would just go play cards all night. But I walked into this poker club, and one guy said to another guy, there was a Hasidic guy playing poker at the table, and he and another guy at the table got into a fight, and the one guy accused the Hasidic guy of cheating, and the third guy at the table said, "Come on, Heshy's a man of God," and the guy A said, "Man of God, come on, he's the only Jew I know who took Germany plus the points."
It's funny.
And
It's funny.
And a guy said that in the room. And I remember just going like, holy shit, this is the movie. And I called my partner, Dave, who's my best friend, and I said, I know what we should write about. And then starting the next morning, we started writing rounders and spent a long time researching it and going to the clubs and writing stuff down. And, lines of dialogue, ways people looked at one another, fights that happened. And we just started putting together this story. And then we met every morning for 2 hours before I'd go to work. Dave was tending bar. And I guess before he would go, he'd finish his thing, come over to my apartment. Amy had cleared out a storage area under our apartment building. It has a slop sink and nothing else. And we sat in this room and wrote that screenplay in like 5 months and 4.5 months or something. And it got rejected by every single agency in Hollywood. They all said it. One guy would say it's overwritten. The next guy would say it's underwritten, all that stuff. And then some kid manager, young guy, never sold anything, said, I think this thing is great and I think it's a movie. And he got it to some producer, got it to Harvey Weinstein, who bought it. And, within 2 days, all those same agents called to sign us.
Of course.
And I got to say to them, but you said it was overwritten, and you said underwritten. I still don't know what those terms mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that started us being able to have this other life, making movies and television.
It's inspiring.
Now, you had your dialogue recited by a ridiculous cast. I mean, Matt Damon, John Turturro,
Malkovich.
Martin Landau.
Yeah.
I mean, an incredible
It
cast.
was amazing. Yeah, I was there every day.
Edward
on
Norton.
Set.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's right.
We were on set every day
Gretchen
and a part
Mull.
of it.
Yeah.
Sure. And Famke Janssen.
Yeah, good cast.
Famke Janssen was in it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she was the girl
She's
with the dark hair.
Yeah, she comes and offers herself
yes,
to Matt Damon.
I forgot about Famke Janssen.
Yeah, sure.
That's
She's
one of my
in there.
favorite names.
In fact,
Famke
even in a
Janssen.
small little part before she was famous, Melina Kanakaridis, who then had 5 years of her own show on TV, is in the movie. It was great. It was an amazing thing, and you thought, oh, this is what Hollywood's going to be like. Write a script, you're in production within a year. The movie comes out within another few months
yes.
of that. Just felt like you get the dream actors to
You
act
thought
in it.
making movies was like these movies about making movies.
Yeah, you go in a thing, you go in a
Yeah.
room with your buddy,
Yeah.
you write the script, and Matt Damon's in it.
There's
6
a
months
pile of
later.
cigarettes on the ground, crumpled paper, and next thing, the movie premiere.
Yeah, exactly.
What I
Yeah.
love about it, too, is it's one of these movies that teaches you something. I remember reading an interview with John Huston once, and he's talking about the gold panning scenes in The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and and how you
that's what a movie.
actually learn to pan gold. That he thought if you could teach somebody something, if you could actually show it happening on screen. This movie teaches you. I don't know anything about poker, but after I saw the movie, I felt like I had.
But isn't Treasure? Thank you. That's true. But isn't Treasure Sierra Madre just the greatest?
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
And you
I can
see
watch it every
echoes of
week.
it. You see echoes of it in so many movies now.
Yeah.
Well,
Past that, yeah.
yeah.
Not to mention the Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah. They were always doing that in those Warner Brothers.
Hey, mister. Will you just take a fellow American to a meal?
Such impudence never came my way. Early this afternoon, I gave you money. While I was having my shoes polished, I gave you more money. Now you put the bite on me again. Do me a favor, will you? Go occasionally to somebody else. It's beginning to get tiresome.
Say, pardon me, but could you help out a fellow American who's down on his luck?
Hit the road!
Yeah, there's I think there was one, A Simple Plan.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, the
There was-
Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah,
That's a
all
good
these
one.
movies that have people who are friends, who get money, and then turn on each other.
Yeah, so many of them, and also just even I think the beginning had the panning for the beginning
Mm-hmm.
whole piece of it, the way the ripoffs happen, what they're trying to do. I see echoes of it in all sorts of movies, just visual echoes of that movie. If people haven't seen it, that's
And I remember,
nobody's disappointed when they watch.
I
that.
remember
great
in
one.
that movie when Houston goes, "You're dumber than the dumbest jackass."
He does the dance. He does
Yes,
that little jig.
yes.
It's great. But
And do you remember who the little Mexican kid is?
No, who is it?
Robert Blake.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Yes,
Yeah.
a young Robert Blake.
Yeah, that was one of his first roles.
Doesn't he hit him? He hits Bogart up for money.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then later, I think he sells him a lottery ticket.
That's right. That's right.
What's your theory on what happened to him? What do you think happened to that guy?
Oh, God knows.
What do you think?
Oh, and then Robert Blake is the one who recognizes at the end the bags that Bogart
That's
had,
right.
and that's how. Okay, what happened to Robert Blake?
Yeah, what
I
do you
think he
think
was nutty
happened?
to begin with.
Yeah.
Right,
That's obvious.
I think
Yeah,
he had
even
a-
on those Carson, when you watch him on those Carson episodes, he's very oddball, but he seems in control of the crazy.
Oh,
man.
yes.
The Tom Snyder show, too, the one-on-ones. You'd really see the meltdown. More than Carson.
Robert Blake, though, has said in interviews that he resented Johnny Carson because he knew after he was doing them that he was abusing him, that he was taking advantage of the fact that he had emotional problems. And Carson liked that. Carson liked it. Oh, he have a fun nut on the show. Like, oh, this guy's crazy.
That's the name of that team.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. We're gonna book him right after Gabe Kaplan.
And you know what I think, too, with that murder, where,
that's right,
where he just disappeared. And, this is funny. A friend of mine took me to that restaurant, and when I was leaving, the waiter chased me outside because I had left my sunglasses that were like a $5 pair of sunglasses.
Did you murder him?
Yeah, no. I thought... So, allegedly, Robert Blake was able to leave a gun on the table and walk away. But
to chase you down for the sunglasses. Yeah. Sure.
See, I think that murder case was like when she died, the jury was like, oh, fuck her. If he didn't kill her, someone else would have. Fuck her.
But he did, like, when you would see... I never understand when you see a picture of somebody... And they're just so radically, unrecognizably different.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think he had a troubled childhood from the beginning. I mean, if he talks about it, I think he was troubled, like Gilbert says, from the get-go.
Yeah.
I don't think it was something that Hollywood
But it's amazing
created.
when someone's... I mean, it's one thing to talk about Palillo, but when you think about because Palillo, sort of, even if he didn't know it was just a short thing, we knew.
Oh, yes.
But Robert Blake was the biggest star that there was when he was on that show.
Yeah.
Robert Blake was
Beretta.
a Titanic star.
Well, first, everyone knew him from In Cold Blood.
And then Electric Light and Blue.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. In Cold Blood, and then Electric Light and Blue, which has one of those great '60s bad endings where it doesn't end happily.
Oh, yes.
And then Beretta, and he is like the guy. He's the biggest TV star. He can go on any show he wants, and then the thing just goes away. It's
I have a great Robert Blake clip that I'll send you from YouTube.
From what period of time?
Singing with Gavin McLeod on the Dinah Shore show.
Oh, my God.
Which has to be seen to be believed.
Oh my God.
But getting back to Rounders.
I just remember I loved him so. I just did think Beretta, because I was probably 7 or 6 years old. I just thought Beretta was the greatest human ever created.
And he was like the coolest guy in the world.
But now if you watch it, it's so campy and horrible.
Oh, it's...
But when you're a kid, it seems like the
horrible 70s shit. That only the 70s could
Well, yeah, in the 70s, your toughest cops had a kukatsu on their shoulder or a lollipop in their mouths. Those were the signs
That's right.
Those are the icons of toughness.
And a wheelchair. And Ironside was in a wheelchair.
A wheelchair.
Was it tough with Rounders to make poker cinematic? Was that one of the challenges?
We worked with this great director, John Dahl, who, if you saw The Last Seduction or Red Rock West, he's just an incredible visual stylist. I guess we were just trying to figure out. We were so fascinated by those people, by like poker players, and I still think it's the case, even though the tournament competitive poker maybe cuts it a little, but. They're like gunslingers, where they're people I've always just admired so much. In a way, it's like comedians. People who can kind of put it all on the line the way that card players do. There's no guarantee that they can even eat next week or pay their rent next week. But something tells them, like, I have to pursue this. And I wouldn't have the guts to really do that. I love playing poker. But I would never have cashed it in. I mean, I didn't quit my job to start writing movies. I was responsible about it. I was like, well, I have to do this in the morning for 2 hours, and then I'm going to go to work because I have a family. These people are willing to just go like, I'm gonna try. I think I can be this thing. I think I can beat you, and I think I'm smarter and sharper. And so that idea, that's what we wanted to communicate, right? More than, and then at that point, I wasn't directing that movie, Dave. So it was like, well, John will find a way to do that other piece. It was very important that the actors in it seemed smart enough, cool enough, aware enough, have the emotional depth to play it. And then I felt like, well, it'll find an audience. Oh, we just wanted that movie to be like what Diner was for us. When we grew up, Diner, Harold Ramis movies, we would know them by heart and quote them and know every single word. And we just wanted Rounders to be the kind of thing that other guys would feel that way about. So when that was the end result, that's it. We got everything we wanted out of it. It was completely satisfying. Not a commercial success when it first came out.
You know what's refreshing to hear you say? Because everyone else has that story that I wanted this movie made and I quit my job and I was getting kicked out of my apartment and nobody...
Put it on my credit card.
Yeah, I put it on my credit card and I was about to get arrested and my kids were being thrown out in the street, but I fought. And it's like, here, you finally cut through the bullshit and go, no, I kept my job. I'm not a fucking idiot.
Well, it just seemed like, I'll tell you, really just getting back to my dad. So because my dad is someone who really came up from the streets, I think he went to 7 colleges and graduated none. And, spent a life knocking around to finally find a way to get some success and worked with artists his whole life. I remember I went to him and I said, I really realized this is right at this time. And I probably was thinking I'd quit what I was going to do. And I said, Dad, I really think I need to be a writer. The writers are able to access their inner thing and the distance between the thing. And, I can really express the inchoate rage in me. And if I just... And so maybe I shouldn't. He just looks at me. And he was just sitting on his bed, I remember. And he just looks at me and he goes, you want to write? Write.
Simple.
And I said, yeah. So when he goes, you're not going to quit your job. What are you, like an animal? I mean, how you gonna eat? Quit your job. And I thought it was great. I was like, oh yeah, of course. I don't have to quit my job. I just have to get up earlier.
Yes.
Everyone thinks you have to.
Yes.
It's so important I quit my job. If it's so fucking important, get up at 6.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's all. If I told you if you got up at 6, you could get a fucking blowjob from Christy Turlington, you'd get up at 6. Right? Get up at 6.
Where did the great tell come from? The Oreo cookies in Rounders. It's just something you guys were searching for the tell because it's such a big reveal.
It was one of those things. I'm sure, like when you told me how you write when you're on stage, Gilbert. We just knew in that first scene as we were writing it that we wanted the Oreo. We didn't know that it was for a tell. We just knew we wanted that character when the guy comes to the door and looks through the slot in the door. We wanted Teddy KGB to be eating something and sort of have a very satisfied look on his face. And so we just put, he's eating Oreos. So we established the Oreos and then we put them in a couple of times. And then when we wanted to tell, we realized, it should just be the Oreo. Then we went back and then made the way he ate the Oreo significant each time. And then Malkovich added the ear to it. And that's what, actors, when they, great actors, you've met some, Gilbert. But great actors will take your thing and they won't try to change it or go like, well, what if instead we use a grape? But they'll take the thing you give them and then they'll make it even richer, better, deeper. And that's like what Malkovich did. So respectfully and nicely and, hey, I have this thought. And he just started when he would open them, listening to him, and just added and it communicated to the audience what was going on in a much more clear way.
And you worked with him again in Knockaround Guys.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's so smart. Yeah. Such a great actor.
So now it's Malkovich. He's one of those people I always watch and go, is this guy a nut in real life? Is he a pain in the ass?
He's a brilliant person. No, I mean, he is among the very easiest people to work with. He's a super, super smart person. Read everything, reads knows everything in every newspaper, has read every book, speaks every language. He's a brilliant person. So he doesn't suffer. If you're an asshole, he can give it. If you're a jerk, he can really take care of you. But if he senses that you're working as hard as he's working, there's nobody better. He just will give you everything he has. And he was invaluable to us. Like on Knockaround Guys, when let's say a producer was trying to, if the overtime or whatever, John just quietly come up to us and say, that guy's lying.
Yeah.
I can tell you if you do this, the crew will do that. Just do that thing. And John constantly protected us all the time.
That's totally the different opposite image I always had of him.
Yeah, of course, because he's so good.
Yeah, and watching him in the movies, I always think, oh, this guy's got to be the biggest pain in the
No,
ass.
he can access this incredible inner rage, and he's again, if you lie to John, you're dealing with this incredibly smart person with an enormous emotional range, but he's got a wickedly great sense of humor, and if he thinks you're all right, he's a delight. Don't fucking lie to that guy. Don't try to con him, and everything's
And the acting
fine.
range. I mean, he's played to play a scumbag like he does in Rounders, and then you think about the character in Places in the Heart, where he's just the most sympathetic, the blind man.
Oh no, of
There's
course.
nothing he can't do.
Oh, and think about him in the Killing Fields.
Right. Or Dangerous Liaisons.
And we could keep naming
Yeah,
John
it
Malkovich
just is
movies.
so-
But he's, he
Something
kills
new
me
every
in
time.
Burn After Reading.
Yeah,
You know,
My memoir.
You know, I just had a flashback where you were talking about your father. And I thought, I also, had a father who actually worked for a living.
Right.
Who actually got his hands dirty.
Your dad owned a hardware store?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in Brooklyn where, nothing. But he knew he could, there was no calling someone in to work on the apartment. He would start bashing down the wall, rewire, plaster it, paint it. And he knew how to do this stuff. And got next to no money. He had to scrounge for it. And it's so funny whenever I'm offered a job or I'm at a job and I'm thinking, oh, God, this is the worst. I can't believe, and I'm thinking, okay, if I was sitting in the room with my father now, what would he think of me bitching that I got to tell a couple of jokes at a comedy club in Hawaii?
Well, I think about it all the time. No, the way in which people who do the things that we do are indulged, and then you get the worst part is that you become you're not even aware of the fact that you're just living in a bubble.
Oh yeah,
and that you're so protected, and that you are that the things that feel like that's why in our country even there are 30% of the country living in poverty, but for the other people, if you take resources away for just 2 days, it's pure anarchy.
Yes,
and then you've seen it any time.
That's like there are at least about 6 Twilight Zone episodes where they shut the lights down, the Martians shut the lights down, and the whole town turns on each other.
But all the things that we think, during the course of your day are an annoyance. Like, oh, what if the construction happens outside the window and people can't hear our podcast perfectly?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We fly into a frenzy.
How about if tomorrow I took the fucking water away?
That's right. Perspective.
Yeah, you want to write? Right. It's not so fucking difficult.
So you basically said, I think I'm going to write movies, and within a couple of months, there you are with John Malkovich and Martin Landau and Matt Damon, and that had to be. I mean, do you pinch yourself even now?
Yeah. Oh, I have total awareness of how lucky the whole thing has been. 100%. You're aware. Again, not toiling.
I pinch myself every night. That's my dick joke that I was going to throw in.
I was going to say,
He's doing it now.
No, Jergens or Vaseline. Jergens or Vaseline.
Now, I just remembered when talking about that thing of working and not work. I remember one time leaving the set of Hollywood Squares, and it was a little longer that day.
That's a shitty job.
Yeah, yes.
Listen.
But I remember I had a driver to take me back to the hotel. I'm sitting in the back of the car, and the driver said, "How was your day?" And I started to go, oh, this is like the worst. And then all of a sudden, the other part of my brain said, okay, you were driven to work, you had breakfast, you told 3 jokes, broke for lunch, told another 3 jokes, and are now being driven back to your hotel.
But you actually had the presence of mind to connect that right then?
Yes. I caught myself.
Oh, that's great.
I caught myself because I was about to say, you should really feel bad for me. This was a horrible day.
A horrible day is the center square.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
He wasn't even lucky enough to be the center square. Let's talk a little bit about Ocean's 13 and
sure.
working with
let's
Steven
do it.
Soderbergh. How did all this come to be?
That was great.
which I just rewatched, by the way, and there's there's
did
so
you,
many
well,
wonderful
I have
things
to
in it.
ask.
Oh, so that was 2 Matt Damon movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you catch?
The Godfather reference when Elliot Gould's on the bed?
We're not children here. I know you caught the Godfather
Okay, the
reference.
Caddyshack one?
The Paul Anka quotes.
No.
There are 2 quotes in Ocean's 13 from Paul Anka's rant at his band on that tape. How did you miss it, Frank? Your entire job here is to catch that.
So disappointed
The
in myself.
reason that you're here.
Paul Anka, not Buddy Rich.
That's the fucking way it's done.
There are 2.
Yeah.
He says, first of all, he says, right to George Clooney, when I move, I slice like a fucking hammer.
Oh, I love it.
Al Pacino says that, and he says, don't make a maniac out of me. Right off the Paul Anka tapes.
You missed them both.
I am crushed that you didn't have that, Frank.
Is there a
I
li-
was
is-
so
is
sure
there a little,
you would know.
Is there a little Caddyshack when somebody says, is it Scott Kahn says, hey, how about a little something for the effort?
Yeah, there's and there are tons of Godfather references, but the Paul Anka ones, and I had to. This was because of Steinberg and my dad. I know Paul, and you're writing these things when you write a script. You're writing it, you're putting everything in it, you're not censoring yourself. You just want it to be totally entertaining. So we put the Paul Anka stuff in. We had given Pacino, and we gave Al the tapes to listen to because we were like, this is kind of how your guy is.
Hilarious.
So we give him the tapes to listen to of Anka at the band. He loves it. He's like, give me more of those lines if you can.
Yeah.
So we write a few of them in there. There are a few of them in there.
great.
My favorite is I slice like a fucking hammer because, hammers don't slice.
It's great. No.
That's what makes it funny, Gilbert, in
love-
case you're wondering. That's where
I love that.
Wait, so, but then I realized the movie was coming out, and I had to call Mr. Anka because I couldn't have him go to the movie theater because, he is one of the last of those genuinely tough saloon singers.
Oh, yes.
Probably one of the last guys around that worked intimately with Sinatra.
Right. I mean, Sinatra's a runner throughout the whole movie. Our fascination with Sinatra
The
at that
handshake.
time and all that
Right.
stuff. And so I had to call Paul and I said, I just want you to know there's an homage. As long as you call it an homage. There's an homage. He was just a total delight. Kid, I'm sure you took great care of me.
That's great.
Just what you want to, exactly what you want to hear.
Now, what did you think of the first Ocean's 11?
You mean the one from the 50s?
Oh, yeah, the
Rat Pack.
Sinatra.
I have an endless fascination with the relationships. There is. You could put Sinatra at the Sands on anytime that album, and I'm going to listen to it all the way through. It's my favorite. I just wish I could jump into it. Right? What is the line? What does he say at the beginning? What are all these people doing in my room?
In my room. Is
that it? What are all these people?
The room, the line that he used every night.
Yeah. What are all these people doing in my room?
Yeah, but made it seem fresh.
Every time, of course.
Yeah.
And
I think both Sinatra and Dean Martin used that line.
did Dean use that line too?
Well, it's a drunk line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What are all these people doing in my
Right.
room?
Yeah, but would Dean would do it when he was performing on stage or as a guest?
I think so. I've heard him do that a few times.
So, I'm totally, I think they were probably in lots of ways horrible guys to be around in certain ways, and you wouldn't. But to have just rolled with them for a weekend would have probably been if you could have somehow hung in and just surfed behind them, surfed their wake.
I always think they'll never really make an honest biography about the Rat Pack or Martin and Lewis.
Yeah, it's very hard to. That one movie, I mean, I think Cheadle's great in that movie as
Sammy, yeah.
Sammy. But I mean, all of it fascinates me, brother-in-law for all of it is amazing. The movie, I think we all can acknowledge, is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But those guys and the way that movie came together, which is the best part of that movie, The Rat Pack, does show in a great way how they all decided to make that movie together, and it's great. How Lawford got roped in, how they all sort of did it for a variety of reasons and to be out there. And did you guys? I'm sure you've read that. I don't know how you pronounce the guy's name. Bill Zimi.
Oh yeah, the guy that writes about late night TV.
Yeah. He wrote this amazingly great. Not Bill Carter, Bill Zimi, Zehme. He wrote this amazing thing about Sinatra back then, for Vanity Fair, and then I think it might have ended up in a book. But he talks about this moment, which is it was in the morning, and suddenly coming across they all had villas around the pool in Vegas, and suddenly the doors to a couple of them opened, and Sammy and Joey Bishop and probably not Dean. Let's say Sammy, Joey Bishop, Peter Lawford, one other of them, started running across the pool. And someone said, "What's going on? What's going on?" And Sammy said, "Frank's up."
Right. That's hilarious.
Yeah, what are they doing? Just waiting in there? They're not allowed out until he's up? Or they're just sitting there? Can they order room service? What can they do?
You know my problem with the Cheadle character in those movies is that, they're doing their usual stuff. They're like Italian gangsters and Jews.
You mean in the
every-
Sinatra movies?
Yeah.
Oh, in the Rat Pack picture?
Yeah,
You mean
yeah.
the-
I mean, not the Cheadle. You mean
Yeah.
in the Sammy Davis, not the Cheadle.
Yeah,
Sammy Davis.
yeah. And it's like, so they're doing their usual, like where they pick him up. I'd like to thank the NAACP for this award. And then they show him with like tears in his eyes. And I'm thinking, no, I don't think so.
They show that. Oh, I think that's a good moment. They show that one moment where no, he goes along with it, Sammy, and then yes, they linger on his eyes for 1 second. But I don't think any of us can know what. Do you think you know what Sammy was feeling?
I don't know. My guess is Sammy knew he was getting pussy and money, and
I don't know. You really do? You think Sammy was okay? I think probably there were times that Sammy went back to his room. I mean, if you were able to have second thoughts in the car after Hollywood Squares,
It's a perfect analogy.
you don't think that there were moments that Sammy, who, by the way, was the most talented of all of them, with
Yeah.
raw. I mean, the kid could dance and he could play the drums and the bass and sing and all of it. You don't think he ever went back, closed the door, and was just like, motherfuckers.
Not if Kim Novak was there.
oh yeah.
All right,
Kim
so that's,
Novak is
that's a
blowing
little
him.
mitigator.
Sure, that's
It
3
could-
minutes, and
It
then
could be- But then after that, he goes, "Oh boy, that black joke that Dino made. Oh, that." Are you familiar with that story of Frank and Dino and the president of Hunt's Foods?
no, please tell it.
Oh God.
Do it on me.
Let's go.
The president of Hunt's Foods, his son or daughter was getting married, and he was having dinner with the parents of the in-laws, and so they were having dinner. And Frank and Dean are bombed out of their skulls and yelling. They own Vegas, so they do what they want. And he asked them if they could hold it down a little because they were having a nice dinner there. And Frank and Dean beat the shit out of the owner of Hunt's Foods. He fell through a glass table and it was in a coma for a while. I think he lived with some problems for the rest of his life. And the creepiest part of the story, they said the president of Hunt's Foods did not press charges.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just horrible.
That lets you a little taste of how creepy that really was.
I know someone who was at dinner with Frank towards the end, within the last 4 or 5 years of Frank's life, and they were at a restaurant in Florida, and they were bringing around a dessert cart. Do you hear this story?
Oh,
So I think
wait.
you probably know the person who. It was never told on a podcast or anything, but I mean, it's a story that is true, and someone told me it was dessert carts coming around. And I guess there's a piece of pecan pie and with a big thing of whipped cream on top of it. And Frank says, "I'll take the pecan pie." And the guy says, "Great, Mr. Sinatra," and starts wheeling the cart away. And Sinatra goes, "Nick, I said I'll take the pie." And he says, "No, this is only for show. We have to go back. You don't tell me. I want the pie." Mister, and everyone at the table's Frank. Everyone immediately, Frank. Don't worry, Frank. Such says, "Give me the fucking pie." And they're all looking, and the poor kid who's like Spider in Goodfellas.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. looking because he knows what we're gonna all find. He knows, and he goes, "I can't." And he goes, "Hey." So everyone, the manager who was with Frank, just shrugs his shoulders, like, "Well, he wants the pie. Give him the pie. What are you gonna do?"
Yeah.
This guy says, "I really don't think you should. Give me the pie." So he fucking puts the thing down, and it's not whipped cream, it's Crisco, so it doesn't melt on the display card. It's a show pie with Crisco on the top of it, lard. And so Frank goes, "Good," and he fucking dips his spoon in and puts the Crisco thing in his mouth, And the person who was there said, his face turned red. He goes, "What the fuck is this? What kind of joke you trying to pull on me?" Boom goes the cart. Boom goes the table. Just destroys the entire place. Says, "Let's bust it up." He's like, 74. And he just destroys the place. Wrecks it. And so the person I know is like, "Are we all going to jail? What's going to happen? Are we going to jail?" Because everyone's just standing around like in the Goodfellas scene. And Frank has just destroyed everything. And then the manager guy was with him, just took out a wad of like $20,000 in cash and said, how do we make this go away?
Oh, wow.
And he always walked to them. If you went to dinner, you had to bring like $20K because you knew at any moment. One of the things that's always been super compelling to me to try to figure out, and you've been around so many of these people, is like, what's lost in a lot of this is Frank was a great, great, great artist. Like,
yes.
The greatest of the great.
Yes.
I mean, you listen to In the Wee Small Hours, you listen to any of 10 of those albums and singles, he was able to communicate this incredible amount of depth and beauty and artistry and break your heart and inspire you, and you'd want to follow him to the ends of the earth. And somehow he was able to tap into this, some essential thing about the human condition, like about what we are, in the way that he would communicate these songs. Perfect pitch. He knew. He could tell you if the third bassoon was out, and then somehow he's able to take that thing off, like break your heart, and then just go beat the shit out of some poor, what is it? Is it a life of being? Is it just being that indulged?
That's range.
That's range.
It's kind of like.
What do you think that is, Gilbert?
But I was thinking it's kind of like that scene in The Godfather where James Caan smashes a guy's camera and then throws a wad of bills down on the ground.
Right. Oh, sure. Yes, sure. That's probably per the Don's instructions so that you don't get in trouble.
But you know what I think of too? It's like that idea of like separating the artist from who they are.
Yes.
It's kind
hard
of
to do though.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's impossible. Like, I am not going to admire this Leni Riefenstahl.
She's a big talent.
Yeah.
By the way, a great eye for composition.
really?
A great eye for composition.
Because she did all these propaganda films building up the Third Reich, and I'm supposed to go, yes, but did you see that scene?
I know, but
it makes Adolf look like a god.
But we're all able to forget. Like with Frank, and like I said, I listen to that. I listen to his music, and I'm a rock and roll fan. I don't listen to that, but I listen to Frank all the time, and you forget. You're just swept away in this thing. So when you ask, does Sammy feel that way? I have to think there's no chance Sammy didn't know, because he was a bright guy.
Yeah.
That he didn't know. There's something I'm selling out something kind of essential about myself, but I'm doing it. He had to know that he had made some kind of a deal with himself. I think.
Now that
My guess.
There was all
possibly.
that controversy when they cut off Frank Sinatra at the Grammys or something. I don't know if you remember that. And Billy Joel was angry about it. Everybody was saying, and I heard that Frank toward the end. Like, they said there was one roast of him, and he was up at a podium talking, and he was rambling.
Well, yeah.
And they sent out as a joke this famous black boxer, we'll say Muhammad Ali, I don't know who, and to take Frank's drink away from him, like away. And he says to this famous fighter, he goes, "No, I am not through with that drink. When I am through with that drink, then you could take it away." And it's like he thought it was the waiter.
Oh. Yeah. Frank Sinatra, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
All right, so we won't ask you about caper movies, but
Sure.
I do want to ask you this. So we're running out of time.
Okay.
So you may... Oh, wait. Before we go, here's a joke.
Gilbert's chewing.
Where's he going with
Gilbert's choking on his own.
His genius.
Here's a joke that brings poker for your movie rounders. This brings poker and a dick joke.
Great.
Okay. A guy's playing poker.
Yeah.
A guy's playing poker. He gets a call from his wife. His wife says, "Hey, it's late. Get home right now." And the guy says, I can't go home now. I've got a stack of quarters the size of my dick. And the wife says, well, take your 75 cents and come home.
That's a great joke. Nothing to me tops the Paul Lynde joke that you told the other podcast maybe 2 weeks ago, I think, to Weird Al.
Oh,
that's my favorite joke of all. That may be my favorite.
That's made several appearances on the show.
That may be my favorite.
Well, it might
joke
make
of all
another
time.
one.
That is, in case anyone missed it.
Yes, in case anyone missed it, or in case anyone wants to hear what you have to say.
Gilbert was on Robert Osborne's show, and he picked 5 movies. He was a guest, and he was asked to pick program for the evening, and he picked The Swimmer.
Yeah.
And Todd Browning's Freaks and The French Connection and a couple others.
No, not The Conversation.
The Conversation, excuse me.
Yeah.
Those are all great movies.
And the original of Mice and Men with Lon Chaney and Burgess Meredith.
So we have to ask the filmmaker, what, besides Treasure of the Sierra
The
Madre,
price of that is the Paul Lynde joke.
Okay, you
Okay,
have the Paul Lynde
okay.
joke.
Paul Lynde was once...
We're bartering now with guests.
Paul Lynde.
Because I want to tell it to Yoko the next time I see her.
Perfect.
The next time you're freezing naked next to Yoko,
I promise if I see her again, I'll tell her this joke. If you tell her right now, wherever I am.
you'll knock on her chamber.
Yes.
And
So Paul Lynde.
so Paul Lynde, why not?
It's at least the third appearance of this joke.
It's a
on the
perfect
show.
joke. Come on, it's a perfect joke.
This is basically like talking to your old relative and go, did I ever tell you about the time? And I thought, yeah, you told me this 50 times already. But so Paul Lynde was booked in this place to perform, and it looked like an old barn that was remade into a theater, a really shitty place. And he looks around and goes, this place smells like a cunt, I think.
I wish we had video so you could see Brian Koppelman leaping out of his chair. He just did the Walter Houston dance from Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Paul Lynde hated the Jews, you know.
I thought you were going to say the joke, which I bet you wouldn't have liked.
No, he
Why?
hated the Jews. And I have it confirmed. When I was on Hollywood Squares, the producer was the same producer. And he said that during the lunch hour, all the other guests would get together and be having lunch and, you know, telling stories and laughing, and there'd all be a lot of fun. And Paul Lynde would be bombed out of his skull. And he was an angry, angry drunk. And he would go, oh, those fucking Jews. Hitler should have killed all of them. Those Jews are the reason I don't have a career.
Did you ever meet him?
No.
I wonder if...
But I think you should write the TV movie. Because he was fucking one of these young boys, or the boy was fucking him. And then
Frank should write it. Frank's the writer. And
I'm working on
well,
it.
you have a little time.
No,
I
little
think
time.
you should.
Little
I
time.
think it's a great way
No,
to
I meant
The Paul Lynde story.
I meant a good writer.
That's not... All right, 5 movies. You want 5
How about
movies?
Jim J. Bullock and the Paul Lynde story? Is that working for you?
Well, you see, we can't say Palillo anymore.
Yeah. Give me 5 movies.
And the guy he was with ran out. He panicked. And they say Paul Lynde actually could have lived had this guy called an ambulance.
Is that... Oh, really?
Yeah.
And the guy didn't want to be...
Yeah, he panicked.
Right.
And made a run for it. And other people tell me Frank Sinatra killed Paul Lynde.
Over at Pecan Pie.
Junior.
Because Paul Lynde was in on the Kennedy assassination, so Frank...
What's awesome is the percentage of people listening who know who Paul Lynde even was.
They do now.
That's the best. Like, I have to say, that's like the best part of the Paul Lynde joke for me. I'm 48, and I barely know why the joke is good.
People who worked with Paul Lynde don't remember who Paul Lynde was. I remember Merv Griffin always would have foreign... girls with foreign accents. Well, Zsa Zsa Gabor was the biggest. But they would always manage to accidentally say something risque. And, they had no idea, of course, that was the big thing. Like, they would go, I went out for a blow job. And then they go, oh, I meant dinner. And it was like... I like to suck a cock. I mean, no. I meant I like to take a nap. I like getting fucked in the head. No. I mean, I enjoy Hawaii.
I don't know what Merv Griffin shows you were watching.
You're saying Paul Lynde isn't really sure what the barn... You're saying he's not sure what the barn smells like. He has a feeling from what he's heard?
Yes.
From what he's gathered?
Yes, from what he's gathered.
But he doesn't have personal...
As surprising, I don't want to reveal something. I don't want to talk out of school, but Paul Lynde, I think, was gay.
So that's the joke.
Now you got it.
The joke is, how could he know that it smelled like that? I knew I liked it. I didn't know why. Now I know why. It's great. Oh.
Because I think Paul Lynde didn't get a lot of pussy.
Right. So then how did he know?
Yes.
He's not going to know. That's helpful. You've helped a lot of people now. Like The Godfather 2.
Okay, I'm writing them down.
The Godfather 2, I watched it the other night again. I watched it 2 nights in a row, actually. It's not as much fun to watch as The Godfather, but it's
dense.
every single
It's
moment.
denser.
And there are great mysteries. You guys answered the greatest mystery about the movie when Danny was on the show, which, by the way, if podcast, I think there are podcast awards, but the Danny Aiello episode is the best podcast anyone's going to do all year, and I say that as someone with my own podcast called The Moment, by the way, with Brian Koppelman, and which you can get on iTunes. But when Aiello answered the question, that's haunted me my whole... because I watched that movie for the first time when I was a little boy. The question of why Michael Corleone says hello when it's not Michael Corleone who's killing him, and Danny told you that he just made it up.
Yeah.
And Coppola was like, go with it. But the other thing that's always been a mystery to me is why Michael decides to have Fredo bring the $2 million. Because nothing has changed in his view of Hyman Roth.
Very interesting.
Nothing has changed. He goes down there. Hyman Roth doesn't. He's figuring out that Hyman's bad. He thinks so ahead of time. He's not sure whether it's right. Why does he say, storytelling-wise, why is it nothing changes? He doesn't renegotiate the amount. Hyman Roth wants $2 million, and he has Freddie bring the $2 million. And the last time I watched it, the key is when they're sitting at that outside veranda talking, he wanted Freddie down there so he could look at him and figure out if Freddie was the rat. Mm-hmm. And the way he needed to give Fredo a job in this thing and find a reason for Fredo to come down there. When he gets Fredo down there, now he's sitting with him now, and you watch Michael's expression when Fredo was saying, usually you watch Fredo when he's saying, why couldn't we have been like this before? Why couldn't we, and we know, because we've watched the movie a bunch of times, the regret that Fredo has, the fear. You see, when you watch it next time, don't look at Fredo during that scene. Only look at Michael during that scene.
See, now that's the definition of a great film.
Yes.
That no matter how many times you're always finding something.
Well, you are, and you just watch Michael watching Fredo, and you go, oh my God, the whole reason he has him there is he's going to figure this thing out, and it's breaking his heart, but Michael's gone over. That's the moment when you know. Fredo's right there on the veranda. Michael knows everything. And then he's just waiting for the final piece. It's awesome.
Why did Godfather 3 suck to high heaven?
I left a fucking vacation early. I was on this is when I was Christmas vacation, and I came home early to see the fucking movie because I was on an island somewhere. I flew home to see that piece of shit. And I mean, he's the greatest director. Nobody's movies have made me want to do this. Like, it's Francis Ford Coppola, the Coen brothers, Barry Levinson, Scorsese, Quentin. There's Spike Lee. There are these. He's. The ultimate, the conversation is as good as anything else.
Just watched it.
The two Godfather movies, fucking Apocalypse Now would be the best movie. If you're not Francis Ford Coppola, that's the best movie you've made, Apocalypse Now. It's one of the great movies. But boy, did everybody just whiff on that thing.
It's kind of like, I feel like no one in Godfather 3 ever watched the first two.
I think it comes down to something really simple. I've given this too much thought. I just think it's as simple as them not paying Duvall.
Really?
Think about it. The moment Tom Hagen's not in that, he's the anchor of those movies. The moment Tom Hagen's not there to be the person looking at Michael for us, Tom Hagen processes the change in Michael Corleone. He's right from the beginning talking to him at the wedding. He's there the whole time. He's the guy in the second movie who's his change and is watching Michael change. And then when you don't have that guy who was the other connection to Don Corleone and to Sonny, it can't work. Then you have to suddenly you just make up the story. There's nothing tethering him to the world Mario Puzo created.
There are a lot of other
I think
problems.
that's yes, but I think they come from that because then you have to invent the Joe Mantegna character.
Right.
Then you have to invent all these other things.
I don't think he had any passion for making it. He spent 25 years avoiding it.
Yeah,
and
it's
refusing
a very
to do it.
difficult thing.
And when you watch, Pacino in Godfather 2 and 1, where he's so quiet and intense, where it looks like he's not doing anything, and then in 3, you feel
He's
like
chewing the scenery.
Oh yeah. You say, could you pull it back a little?
Okay, so Godfather 2 is one.
All right, I heard a great Pacino story the other day that I'm going to tell. This is not my story. It's Hank Azaria's story, but I'm telling it. Hank, I'm telling your story.
Okay.
Hank,
He was once in a barn, and he said, "This."
You got to get Azaria. You guys have to get Hank Azaria on this show. He'd be a perfect guest for you guys. But
big fan.
He's on the movie Heat with Pacino, and Pacino. It's late at night, and they're going to do that scene where he says, a great ass. And, Michael Mann, who's directed and wrote that movie, is famous for working people very hard and for very many hours. And Michael Mann is also super cool. Like the way he's one of these guys. Leather jacket, the perfect leather jacket, the perfect whatever, even at however old. And because they're working so much, actors will often say to a director, "Tell me where I am in the story." And so Pacino says to Michael Mann, where are we? Where am I in the story? And Michael Mann leads. It's 3 a.m. They're working. Michael Mann goes, well, you're coming from a place. Bobby De Niro goes, Bobby just jackpotted you. You were jackpotted by Bobby. And now you got Hank here. You're jackpotting him. Because what you're trying to do is, you're trying to put Bobby in a jackpot. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to jackpot Hank here. You got him wrapped up in a jackpot because you got jackpotted by him. And you're furious because how dare this motherfucker jackpot you. And Al looks at him and just goes, I have no idea what you just said.
That's great.
Yeah. It's okay. Godfather 2, I would have to put a Coen Brothers movie on there. The Big Lebowski. If we're doing it, this is not my 5 favorite movies of all time. It's just what I would want to.
What you would program?
You could say Miller's Crossing, but I'll say instead. I'll stay Lebowski. I'm only going to do one from any filmmaker. I would say Goodfellas. Diner. Diner for sure. And I would love and to end it early the next morning. A sentimental pick, perhaps.
Something with Ron Palillo.
No, it's between Bridge on the River Kwai, which is not the sentimental pick. It would be between that and Groundhog Day. Just something from Harold Ramis. But Bridge on the River Kwai is something that everybody needs to see. Don't you think?
But it's funny. I was watching a documentary.
It is hilarious.
Yeah,
Bridge on the River Kwai is.
Laugh out loud.
I was watching a documentary on the actual River Kwai, that whole thing, the whole story, from the being these people, English and Americans held prisoner by the Japanese, and they were telling what was going on there, and they said, outside of the concentration camps, the worst treatment of anyone was those who are holding them hostage.
Right before, remember that scene when the guy gets put in that hot thing? He gets put, what do you call that thing? That hot box?
Oh, yeah.
Right before Yoko Ono went in there.
Really?
Yeah, because he was going to get in the hot box. And then, yeah.
Okay.
What other podcast covers the Bridge on the River Kwai and Dustin Diamond beating the shit out of Ron Palillo? Thanks for doing this, Brian. It was fun. Anything else you want to plug besides the podcast? Anything else coming up?
No, there's a show that'll come out on Showtime, but not for a while. We're starting to shoot in January. It's called Billions. Dave and I wrote it with the journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin, starring Paul Giamatti and Damian Lewis, and really excited about that. My podcast, The Moment, with Brian Koppelman. And then, Gilbert, I have to tell you, I didn't tell you this. When I was in college, they had this game show called Remote Control. Do you remember it on MTV?
Oh, yes.
Colin Quinn.
Yes.
And they went around to colleges to audition people to be on this game show. And they at my school, Tufts, 300 people showed up for this audition. They picked 3 out of 300. I was picked, and the way I was picked. So they would call you up to the stage, and you would get up there, and they would say, tell us something or do something. I was in the audience, and they said, Brian Koppelman, come up to the stage. And right from my seat, I went, stop, it's too much. And stop, no more, enough. And I just did 3 minutes of you walking up and onto the stage. I never opened my eyes, the thing, and they picked me to go on the show. So thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was in 19, I was doing Gottfried impressions back in 87.
So you owe me your career.
The whole thing happened from being
Wow.
on remote control. That's right. So thank you.
It's come full
Wow.
circle.
Thank you for that.
Do a little more Gilbert before we close
Stop.
out.
Stop! It's too much. It's enough already. Enough. Stop. It's too much. It's more than I can take. It's not even fair. It's not nice. It's beyond nice.
Well, that was either Brian Koppelman or Gilbert Gottfried saying that that's enough. And so...
It's too much.
Yeah, it's too much. So, we have been talking to Brian Koppelman, and I still don't know what the fuck you do, but that's not important.
Who gives a shit?
We've been talking to screenwriter Brian Koppelman, and this has been Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre.